for Fowler.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I too, like the member for Wales, my family also were given the opportunity to rebuild our lives with the availability of public housing, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm here today as a result of that kickstart. But we all know that back in the 1970s, about 64% of young people aged between 30 to 34 years of age can own a home, whereas now that figure is down to about 50%, and I believe is shrinking. Housing is a crippling challenge for Australians who are working hard for themselves and their families. But these days, no matter how hard you work, the great Australian dream of owning a home is just that, a dream. While we have been debating on the merits and detriments of the Albanese government's Housing Australia Future Fund, or HAF, millions of Australians are struggling to pay their rent, meet their mortgage repayments, or are getting evicted. And on top of all that, a new class of working homeless group are emerging. We can't keep talking about the problem. We need action, and we need to pull together, work together, and implement an accelerator-type program to create real solution for all Australians. The member for Wentworth and I come from different electorates, but we share a common goal, and that is we want to see our future generations be able to own their own home. We want to bring back that great Australian dream for everyone in Australia, regardless of background or postcode. But with the current cost of living crisis, many young Australians and middle-income earners have simply given up on the idea that they might ever own their own home. Our most vulnerable communities bear the brunt of this housing crisis. Low-income earners living paycheck to paycheck find themselves forced to vacate their residences and left to face a life on emergency accommodations or, even worse, on the streets. 42% of my electorate in Fowler currently rent, and we have the fourth worst rental affordability in Australia, where over 45% of families spent more than 30% of their household income on rent. Our area is crying out for more social and affordable housing, and we simply cannot afford to sit and wait on social housing lists for more than 10 years. It's heartbreaking to see families in Fowler who have shared my dream of making a better life, and now they would not dare to dream of owning a home. What they dream about is a warm bed and a safe place to raise their children. Only 26% of the population in my electorate own a property, and many are struggling to meet their home loan repayments, with the fourth worst mortgage affordability in Australia. Nearly 25% of our households spent more than 30% of their household income on repayments. And while I acknowledge the government is trying to improve the situation with the HAF and the Housing Accord, financing is just one small issue. Other issues include lack of available land, increased costs of workforce shortages, increased costs of construction, and council and state government processes and regulations. This cannot be fixed just by throwing money at the problem. What is clear is that there needs to be collaboration between all levels of government in order to address the current housing crisis. Together with the member for Wentworth, I call on the government to work with the local and state governments to accelerate actions to increase housing and land availability, which will lead to the increased availability of social and affordable housing. We need to act together. State governments can eliminate the red tape in releasing land and working with councils to promote better housing outcomes, as well as improving the processes and procedures in terms of regulations. How can we facilitate the process for young people? We've seen New South Wales scrap land tax and Victoria scrapped stamp duty. Why can't we give people more choices to suit their unique situation? Community housing providers and their partnering developers should be allowed to access tax breaks, expedited DA approval processes and other incentives on a state and local level to make up the shortfall of construction costs and land prices. It is up to every one of us to take steps that will increase social and affordable housing in this country. We have to stop talking about the problems and talk about solutions. Otherwise, we will continue to see the decline in housing availability and family and children living in crisis and emergency accommodations.